Hello and welcome to the First Issue Club. We're your weekly comic book podcast where, just like Sue Storm, we love a good read. Get a load of this. We're back for another week of FIC, F-I-C, First Issue Club. Love our abbreviations here, buddy. B-O-T-Y, best of the year. MYR, mid-year review. All that good stuff. We do it here. We're going to do anything you can think of an abbreviation for in comic books. We're going to talk about it on FIC, the First Issue Club. Your home, the definitive, maybe, podcast that discusses first issues on a weekly basis. We don't discuss clubs on a weekly basis. We discuss first issue comic books.
Send in your club. We'll discuss them.
We'll audit your club. We'll do a club corner from now on. I'm Mike.
I'm Greg.
And I am Vargas.
We're recording remote this week. Little bit of a kerfuffle last week. No new episode. Let's address the elephant
Oh man,
in the room. Left a mic unplugged. Might have been my fault. Might not have been. Who's to say? But we talked about an entire week of first issues that'll never see the light of day, unfortunately. But
lost
in
the
that
time.
In that episode, we did a couple things that I want to touch base on here. We talked about our favorite comic book shop, The Geekery in New Jersey. Our good pal, Doug, sent us a really sweet care package. And we want to say shout out to Doug. Buy Geekery t-shirts. Go support The Geekery and support your local comic book shop if you can. Great people out there doing great things for this great community. And then also, you know we're going to do it. We did it that episode, and we're going to do it this episode again, baby. Space Camper Cosmic IPA, the best beer in the galaxy, one that at least acknowledges the larger concept of space beyond Earth.
Yeah, the audacity of the Mr. Universe contest. You
Tell
know?
me about it, man.
You're Mr. Earth at best.
I'll dare say this is the best beer in this reality and or any other reality.
I think that's a safe bet. You don't get more fragrant and flavorful than the new varietal Juice Nova, which is their super stellar IPA that is a 9% even ABV beer. Hit you
I can
hard.
smell the
upside
bouquet from
head.
here.
Yeah, it's a great smelling beer. The second you open it, even if it's 5 feet from your face, you can smell it. So, awesome one to check out. Check out Space Camper and their full family of beers from Boulevard Brewing Company. And from now until the end of the year, you can get 20% off of Boulevard's web store by using the code FIC20. So shout out to Boulevard for helping our listeners get a little discount for the holiday season.
Ain't that sweet?
Let me take a sip. Can one of you brothers talk about like what kind of great news we're going to get into while I have a sip of my Space Camper?
I can tell you that I brought some of those Juice Novas to friends, and they all agree that somebody needs to make a Corona-rita with it, but with Juice Nova and a mango margarita.
Oh, hello. Yeah, it does have a lot of mango notes in it.
Yeah.
Does anyone have news in addition to talking about first issues on this club?
Yes.
We talk about some comic book news.
David Pepos is going to be writing a Speed Racer comic, and I am here for it.
Okay, this ties in to a larger piece of comic book news, and it's that all the free Comic Book Day books have been announced for 2025. It's going to be on May 3rd this coming year. Does any standouts for you guys that you're excited about?
I
Haven't seen the list that's been dropped yet.
Say what?
I like to have free Comic Book Day be a surprise for me.
Really?
It's like, it's like Christmas. I don't know what I'm going to get. Was I a good boy or a bad boy?
I'm going to have to spoil it for you. There's something like, I think there's 46 comics that have been announced. And every year I feel like this thing gets bigger and bigger. And how do you keep up with all the comics? It's kind of wild. there is a Fantastic Four / X-Men #1, which every year Marvel does like slash issues where they do like Spider-Man and Venom, or one thing in the Ultimate Universe. This year they're doing Fantastic Four and X-Men together, and they have said business is as usual with the X-Men, except for there's a New Mutant this time around. And since we've got a Fantastic Four X-Men crossover, I'm curious if we're finally doing Franklin Richards. That was a big thing that got teased during the Hickman era, and we started building towards what was going to happen when Franklin Richards ultimately made his way onto Krakoa, and then Dan Slott ended up taking on Fantastic Four and took Franklin in a completely different direction, much to many longtime Marvel fans' chagrins. So we'll see if they do something with that in this issue.
I mean, so they're gonna do like another retcon then of Franklin. This poor character has just the most mixed up identity.
I don't know. That's just what I'm assuming. I feel like if you're gonna do a Fantastic Four / X-Men comic, and then you hold us in suspense with who this New Mutant is gonna be, then I feel like it's kind of a letdown if it isn't Franklin Richards. And in any case, in addition to that, you've got like an Energon Universe free comic book day special. I Hate Fairyland is getting one. Power Rangers normally gets one.
Excuse me, I need to dive to the bottom of the barrel and say Valiant Zombies.
Wow.
Yeah, that is funny to see.
10 years too short, Valiant.
But the script is by Fred Van Lente. He did Marvel Zombies like 3 through 6 or something.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. The IDW Dark is getting a prequel of the Beneath the Trees sequel.
Spring, right?
Yeah.
Or Red Spring or whatever.
And the 30 Days of Night, the new 30 Days of Night book.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Godzilla book.
There's going to be a Black Mirror comic book. Yeah. That was one of the headlines out of this. What do you guys, how do you feel about that? Well, let me say this first, that a lot of the headlines I was seeing surrounding this was the most iconic storylines from Black Mirror are making their way into comics. Are you excited to see comic book adaptations of pre-existing Black Mirror stuff?
I bet it'll
be... Pause. No pig jokes. Zero pig jokes for the rest of this discussion about Black Mirror.
I've been dying to know what happened to that pig 2 years later.
I want the pig side of the story. I want the comic book that goes into the
9-panel pig grid.
The pig's recollection of that day. Was he prepped? Did he know that was his job for the day?
Yeah.
Did he lose a bet? Did he win a bet?
That's great.
I think it'll be spin-offs of like that Star Trek episode. They'll do, a sequel to that. Or what's the one where they go to the retirement home? That was like a big episode.
Yeah. I would like to see some expansion on those stories, or like new stories intermixed with some of those, just so it's not like another anthology book that could be just whatever else happens to have the name Black Mirror on it.
Yeah.
Well, aren't they doing like a Twilight Zone book too? IDW?
Are they? Maybe they are. Yeah, that could be cool. Sometimes when I hear things like Twilight Zone is doing a comic book, or Black Mirror is having a comic book come out, and you think about all these other anthology books that have been around forever, like kicking ass and earning their own name on their own, that it does give you kind of the same sort of vibe when like Conan O'Brien starts a podcast and then like wins all the podcast awards like from now until the end of time. And it's just like other people had podcasts before this guy. And
Yeah, but other people
like
weren't Conan O'Brien.
but like his celebrity kind of trumps everything, right? So you just kind of hope that this adds more fun to the pile instead of, you know, killing things like Ice Cream Man because everybody starts buying.
No, they won't. The Ice
Other
Cream Man
stuff.
is so holistically different than Twilight
Zone.
Or Black Mirror. Like, it is successfully carved out its own successful niche within the anthology series. It's even different than like Tales from the Crypt. I mean, really, it's just its own thing. So what I've seen primarily from these like TV shows that have transitioned into comic books is they don't really work out as well as they want to. And so I wouldn't worry too much about the Conan O'Brien effect happening with these books.
Yeah. Okay. I'd be interested to hear how many people out there in comic book land have not read Absolute Batman #1 yet. As of our recording, it is approaching 400,000 copies sold, which makes
So
it
sick.
easily the highest selling book in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
To put that in, Carl hasn't read it yet. To put that in perspective, Jason Aaron's TMNT sold 300,000 issues,
Good
so
night.
100,000 more than one of the most hyped books of the year. And 2023's bestseller was Transformers, which sold close to 200,000 copies. So this year, we've had two books absolutely crush 2023's top selling title. I guess pretty cool to see, like, you know, people are still buying comics. We talk all the time about like, oh, comics are dying. And then you just see like new books and new stories blow it out of the absolute water.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what has connected with people with this Absolute Batman. Maybe because it's just so outlandish and such an easy entry point for a fun character that people are like, "Yeah, I'll give this a shot." Like, do you guys have a thought on like what is like hitting with people with this book?
Well,
I mean, Scott Snyder, first and foremost.
you have that working for it. He was kind of in indie comics land for a little bit, and he's like finally coming back to focus more on a grander scheme DC stuff. And then Joe just said, seems like a good jumping on point, which like, yeah, there's a million Batman titles that start every year that like start at issue 1, but they're all like dropped into some convoluted point of like Gotham history. You know what I mean? So even though they're new #1s, they're completely inaccessible. And this book was like new Bruce Wayne, new origin story, gives you like a little bit of a key turn of something like interesting and unique about the character that I think just breathed a lot of fresh air into this. Like, you don't need to change much about Bruce Wayne's origin for because DC stuff has remained so holistically untouched for so long, in at least like an ongoing semi-canonical sense, that any little thing is just going to seem so interesting. And the character design just like fucking rules.
Oh, I mean, he's fucking.
I mean,
he looks like the human version of Shrek.
they're leaning in
Handsome
to
Shrek.
Yeah.
they're leaning into what made metal successful. Like
Yeah.
they're making some absurd choices that appeal to our pig brains, and
I.e. the new Batmobile, which is a fucking trash truck.
yeah, the axe head being the like chest logo, the bat wings being like little like grappling hook sort of things. Like there's so many little cool things that are just like nice attention to detail that you just don't get to really iterate on in mainline.
It's almost like it's too get smart. Like I expect him to pull off his boot and use it as a phone, and it's just like, okay, what's going on with this Batman? Like he's utilizing every part of his body now, and that seems a little too far fetched.
Yeah.
Can you guys, not to like jump on the politics train or anything, but can you imagine in a world where this absolute Batman exists,
Mm-hmm.
still saying that comic books are woke? You know what I mean? Like that's such a stupid fucking thing to say.
Yeah.
In a world where this book exists.
Yeah. This is I mean, it made me feel awake and alive when I read it. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. But it's like the ultimate testosterone book.
Yes.
You know?
It took me a sec to realize what you were saying. Yeah. There's if you're not interested in diversity in your comics, one, I guess fuck off.
Yeah.
But two, there's plenty of stuff that's great for you to enjoy still.
Yeah.
Like watching paint dry.
Someone in the chat pointed out, Penguins pointed out that there's potential these books could tie into each other. What do you guys think about the idea that Ultimate or Absolute Batman could meet Universe 1, Universe 0? I can't remember.
Earth 1?
Earth 1? Earth 1 Batman.
Do they fight?
I think for sure you have like all these heroes invade the other Earth, and then
absolute Batman calls regular Batman a 1%er.
I think there's
Christ out of him.
Based on their upbringing, there's a whole philosophical difference about like what is good and what isn't good.
You yuppie piece of shit.
And that idea is like really interesting to me. I think that'd be a really fun series.
Yeah, absolutely. Batman is the people's
prep
Batman.
time. Can Batman beat himself?
It almost seems. I wonder if that's planned already as part of Scott Snyder's vision for this, or if it's going to be like, okay, we're kind of running out of steam, or it's like been a minute since people have talked about it, like a year or two from now, and let's pull this hat out of the or this rabbit out of the hat and hit everybody with Justice League versus Absolute Justice League, which would be
Scott Snyder already said that it's going to be an ongoing series. This isn't like a limited thing.
Yeah, so they'd have to go back.
So he has plans to carry this character on.
Yeah.
I think eventually they do have to meet just because of what happened in the All In special.
Well, at a minimum, Booster Gold is going to meet them.
Yeah, and they have to send Darkseid back to the regular universe.
Yeah.
Already my nose is bleeding thinking about all the logistics here.
I know.
Somebody called Morrison.
Yeah, seriously.
I always think it's...
He says not complicated enough.
I always have this moment partway through the show where it's like, when we started this podcast like 7 years ago or something, the mission statement was like, we'll just cover first issues because it'll be an accessible thing for comics. And the longer the podcast goes on, the more it's like so many first issues are already steeped in so much stuff. And we talk about comic book news that's like totally inaccessible.
We became the thing we hated.
Yeah, right. It's hard not to.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about Absolute, which is only like, 3 months old, and it's already like so convoluted with all the details. I love it though. It's going to be good.
I would recommend anybody pick up the Absolute books. I hope they launch just a ton more of these Absolute books.
Well, we have Flash, Manhunter, and something else, Green Lantern on the horizon.
Yeah, but Absolute Constantine, Absolute Swamp Thing,
Absolute Detective Chimp.
Now, see, Greg, we're on the same wavelength, my guy.
Mike has already speculated that there will be an eventual Absolute Justice League. I mean, logic dictates that has to happen.
I'm just assuming that's happening. Let's move on to some other just like quick things. Daniel Craig being eyed for casting as Sergeant Rock. What are our takes?
I am so jazzed, man, that they're making a Sergeant Rock movie. Yeah.
I think it's so funny to think of like for so long, Daniel Craig is like suave, James Bond type. But as those movies went on, the more it was just like, he's just a grizzled old man who's just been beat to shit over his life.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of at an age and at a point now where he kind of makes sense as Sergeant Rock, I guess.
Was Paul Hollywood busy? Get the British Bake Off guy in there as Sergeant Rock. Underproved.
All right, we got Predator Spider-Man was the newest 20th century crossover book that we've had announced. What do you guys think?
I want a million of these titles. I want every Marvel superhero to fucking fight the Predator.
And Benjamin Percy's writing it. So
yeah. Moon Girl Devil Dinosaur versus Predator.
Dude.
West Coast Avengers versus Predator. Slapstick versus Predator.
I like the idea of Predator fighting a being with like slight precog senses. Like the spider sense is something that I think will be like, wow, this is like, the best hunter on earth. But what are you going to do when someone can kind of like early dictate like your next move?
What? Totally. I'll one up you.
That's the interesting thing about it.
Mystique versus Predator.
Dude, Craven versus Predator.
She could look like the Predator. He'd be so confused.
Would they?
She would do like the mirror trick, like standing up to him, mimicking his moves. He'd be befuddled. No, I'm getting a hard no from the club on this one.
I don't know. She just looks like the guy.
Yeah.
She's not all of a sudden a match for him.
It's not like there's a third Predator. It's not like there's a third Predator with a gun. Like, which Predator do I shoot? It's just two Predators, Greg.
Right. Well, it'd at least give her a moment to like think of something. I mean, yeah, he's the greatest hunter of all time, but he's also still a sentient being that can be confused. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger tricked him with mud.
What about Taskmaster?
Taskmaster versus Predator?
Totally. That'd be sick.
I think that'd be cool. He could study him and bring some wild stuff to the table. Taskmaster is always such like an easy guy to beat, considering he can like perfectly mimic the fighting styles of the world's greatest fighters.
Yeah.
I'm like, shouldn't this guy just be an A-tier villain instead of like a C-lister?
Well, he's so good. He keeps his head down.
I guess that's right.
Mm-hmm.
He knows when to pop his head up.
He knows when to walk away.
Any other news? I think those were at least the highlights for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any more news.
I think you got it.
Okay.
Good work, Mike D.
Let's do comics. We might get into some of the comics we read from last week, so you might get a little crossover. I'll try to be quick about it if I talk about any of my last week comics.
Also, we should note, this is the first time we are streaming the show as well.
Yes.
This may be something we try again. We are streaming over on our YouTube channel, which is at First Issue Club at YouTube. If we get enough interest in that, we'll keep doing it. I know we're having a great time doing it right now.
Yeah, the chat's really fun.
Yeah.
Already I love like...
having the live chat is just like primo.
That. Yeah. But yeah, we normally try to record Thursdays at 8:00 Central. So I don't know. If we start doing it more often moving forward, maybe we shoot out a tweet or something that just says, hey, we're actually doing it or we're not doing it.
Yeah. This was very spur of the moment, so bear with us, folks.
What's going on next week is Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
Thursday is.
Are we doing part 2 of Best 100 Things About Comics that week? Yeah. We're not going to get together to record. We already pre-recorded Best 100 Things About Comics, so we'll release that next week. No live stream over Thanksgiving.
Comic book time.
Comic books. Can I pass to someone else to kick it off? Because I've been talking too much.
I would kick it off, but I didn't read anything new. I could talk about my books from last week.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Actually, since you guys decided to dunk on me in the episode that didn't get released, I can talk about Power Rangers Prime.
I'm so mad that episode is lost because there was some primo riffing in that episode. at Vargas's expense.
Oh boy.
And we
You're a champ,
lost
Vargas.
Neo Tokyo Seinfeld, by the way.
we did lose Seinfeld in Akira.
I
That's
forgot
true.
about that.
Neo Tokyo's about to explode.
What's so Neo about this Tokyo? I guess we have it now.
Canada?
Yeah.
What's
Jerry
the deal with
Seinfeld
cyberware?
saying Canada? That got me.
Okay. I read Power Rangers Prime last week, and bear with me just a little bit because I read it a week ago. But if memory serves, this is kind of like a rehash, remake, reboot from like the original Power Rangers series, where you get a bunch of kids in a high school. Only this is like space high school. Earth has been invaded and then colonized by an alien race, so you get all these different aliens there with the humans, and a kid finds a Power Ranger, and this is one of the things that you guys riffed on me about. Power Rangers are illegal because they have
that's
power,
right, yeah.
and the government doesn't want anybody to have power. So
can I ask you this? Like, a lot of times the Power Rangers colors have like kind of spoken to who they are as people. Is the Green Ranger a real Chiba Hawk in this comic? Real stoner?
Oh. Yeah. That's a good one, Mike. That's a real good one.
He's losing it. Can't take
not
it.
entertained.
Can't take it at all.
The White Ranger's a coke fiend.
Yeah.
The Yellow Ranger has to pee all the time, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Pink Ranger's really into fentanyl.
God.
Sorry, that's the Dead Ranger.
So our teenager hero finds this Power Ranger getting zooted in my Zord. Now that is a comment.
Yeah, you ever hotbox a Zord before?
In high school a couple times, but
oh Jesus. So
if you beat up a putty enough, you can mold them into a bowl.
yeah. A pipe
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, smoke out
Putty
of
bong.
So as I said last time, Power Rangers Prime was pretty good.
And just like last time, we trashed it.
You guys should read it.
Isn't there like some kind of like legacy thing with the Power Rangers that we talked about too? Of just like it's like handed down.
Yeah, the Power Ranger that is featured in this book has like inherited her power coin from generations of her family.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, legacy. It was a legacy Power Ranger.
Yeah, there's a cool a sequence in the book where you see Power Rangers fighting like throughout human history. So there's like ancient Japan, and there's
Civil
like
War.
Yes, I'm not kidding. Like Revolutionary War, and he's like fighting a giant squid next to like a sailboat. Yeah,
You see Ulysses S. Grant go by like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man, it's exactly like that, and it's sick as hell.
Joke called Power Rangers Nepo Babies, and I think
just the one of them. We don't know anything about the others.
Very real. You didn't earn this.
Do you know who my father is?
Mr. Power Ranger was my father.
Yeah.
You can call me PW.
Is
my
the
father
color
is Zordon
based on the coin?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: if Greg stole that Power Rangers coin, would he be the
same color? Yes,
he would be the same color. Would he be able to turn into like anyone who possesses the coin, regardless of their intention? Like, there's no like virtue of spirit, which Greg obviously doesn't
through
have.
nefarious deeds. Can I become the Green Ranger?
Well, so
can I be Green Chief?
I mean, in the original source material, Rita Repulsa has the Green Ranger coin.
Oh, okay.
And she like brainwashes Tommy.
Material.
In the early scriptures, the Dead Zord Scrolls.
I wish you guys wouldn't dunk on Power Rangers. Power Rangers are sick as fuck.
I wish they wouldn't make it so easy, Vargas.
That's another thing that's tough, is that like my understanding is, as far as the TV show, the American version of the TV show,
Uh-huh.
which I interpret as a kids thing, and they've since evolved it really far, and it's become something for people. Like, it's supposed to have grown up alongside us, and now it's mature. But it's hard for me to, one, get over that hill in my brain that this isn't for kids, and then two, I'd also have to buy into the fact that there's like tons of lore now that like I just have to like take it for what it's worth and just keep moving through it.
Yeah.
It's like hard to onboard to.
I mean, this isn't A24 Power Rangers. Like,
I mean, that is true. But to your point, Mike, yes, there is a lot of like lore hill to climb, but
Yeah.
anybody our age that has picked up a Spider-Man book has the same hill, right? Like, we weren't around in 1964 when Spider-Man came out, right? So
speak for yourself.
Oh, I forgot Greg is a timeless
I am a Benjamin Button.
That's right. But I mean, if you can get over that with Power Rangers, I think you'll have a fun time. I had a great time with Power Rangers Prime. And I think this is a good jumping on point for people like me who like I was really interested in the darkest, you know, the Shattered Grid stuff that they've been going through, but you know, it was one of those things where it's like I have no idea what this is or what's going on.
Yeah.
But now we've got Power Rangers Prime that I think might be a good jumping on point. So
all right, cool.
Yeah.
Time to
Space
dive
High School.
in.
You had me there.
I read Psylocke last week, and I think I vamped on it for a pretty long time. And
we both read it.
We both read it. That's right. I really liked it. I think it's one of the better superhero books I've read in a minute. At least it's like I say that with like fun superhero romp thing. It's not like gonna level your mind or anything. But Alyssa Wong wrote it, who I really like. Great author. Psylocke is part of the X-Men now. She needs a lot of distraction to not focus on her like horrific upbringing and what makes her her, and kind of loses herself in her work a lot on purpose. And Cyclops realizes that and is like, yo, Psylocke, go work on yourself for a little bit. And she's like an addict looking for like, you know, a key. Like, is trying to get her next bump somewhere, and is just like, keep me fixed with like a mission or an objective, or like, who needs me anywhere? I'll take any job. And that was just like an interesting like mind space thing, and it tells you like how fucked up her upbringing was and her situation is with the whole Captain Britain, Betsy Braddock, Quanon body swapping thing. Like it unloaded a lot of the trauma of that without giving you like a very repetitious origin story. And I thought that was just like really well executed. And then it became a interesting action book that was centered around freeing mutants that are being human trafficked to get mutant growth hormone, which was another concept that I thought was kind of interesting. They make these patches which give you like temporary mutant powers based on who they were taken from. And Quanon kicks some ass and takes care of business there, but is kind of unsettled by how at ease she feels in like the most fucked up of situations, where she's like kicking human trafficker ass, but is just like, I'm finally at peace, right? Like, you should have different mixed feelings there. So much more complex, I think, than what you're used to from not only just like an X-Men book that is like, you know, more like crazy sci-fi in the weeds with details, but even like a side character book, like it just seems a little more intimate and personal than these books typically are, which was appreciated by me, I think.
So as an X-Men outsider,
Yeah.
what happened to Betsy Braddock? Is she just gone now?
No, Betsy Braddock is Captain Britain now.
But
No.
she's got a separate body from Psylocke
Yeah, so
somehow.
Greg, you wanted to chime in?
Well,
I was like, if
No,
you
I
want to
don't
take
actually.
explaining this, I was like, I'll gladly hand it off.
it is Kawanan, right?
Quanon.
Quanon is like
Yeah.
the spirit, right? That took control of Betsy Braddock, or the body of that Betsy Braddock person, right?
Well, Betsy Braddock took over the body of
Took
Quanon.
over the body of Quanon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You see, I wanted to not talk, and I stepped right in it.
So how did Betsy get her own body? Or are they still sharing the same body?
No, they're not sharing the same body anymore.
Okay.
And
She gets it on the weekends.
They've had some. If anyone in the chat knows for sure, and you can type it in less than a novel.
Unless Chris Claremont is in the chat, we're not gonna get a straight answer.
Oh, but did they?
What I can tell you is they've done some really interesting things since, where like the characters run into each other and they've got this like really messed up relationship. I don't think it was a choice of either of them to have like Quanon's body hijacked, but at the time it was like, oh, we put you like in an attractive, scantily clad ninja's body, and now you're a much more popular character to American audiences, and we can squeeze you into the X-Men as like a missing piece. And like that commerciality premise of just like taking over someone's body, and how like now we're gonna have a blast, she knows kung fu now.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of been looked at in subsequent storylines as like, yeah, how fucked up was that none of us were really considering you or looking for a solution for this person whose like body we stole.
Right.
And I don't know how the whole thing actually resolved itself, but
So was it before Krakoa that they split up?
yes.
Interesting. Okay. Not to like derail this whole thing. I knew that Betsy was in not her own original body, but I didn't know that they like split up. Okay.
Back in her body now, has the purple hair.
Yeah.
Still.
Sure.
Is the new Captain Britain.
Got it. So what happened to her brother?
He's still alive. And I can't remember what like his title is, but he's not Captain Britain.
Okay. Is he with the rest of the Captain Britain Corps in whatever Britain universe, whatever it is?
He's in comics alongside Betsy a lot of the time.
Staff Sergeant Britain. Yeah. Yeah, he got a promotion. He's Admiral Britain now. All right, continue. Apologies. Didn't mean to derail.
No, you're good. I think that's about what I had to say about it. Oh, one thing I mentioned last episode was that this was the first time I could remember doing cocaine being referenced in a Marvel comic.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I thought that was
But they
First appearance of cocaine.
first time coke invoked.
They didn't do it in a Zord.
Coke invoked. It's like a drug wizard.
Literal key alert. That's a good one, Joe. That's a good
I think from last week I read the Ed Hardy book.
Ed Hardy?
Excuse me?
The actor?
Tom Hardy.
Oh,
Tom Hardy. Not the tattoo fashion icon.
I was
Sorry.
gonna say.
I get
got
my
literal
icons
ink.
mixed up. Tom Hardy did that comic book, and we talked about it. And we had mixed feelings because there was a lot of made up words that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, that's right. We read the synopsis and it was gobbledygook.
Yeah. So I look forward to watching the movie eventually.
The long game for all of this. All right, do we want to get to this week's comics? Was there anything that blew anyone away last week that we didn't get to?
I'll take this opportunity. I read I picked up during AWA's Halloween sale the trade of Out. Have you guys heard of Out?
No.
I don't think so.
So it's a World War II story about a Comanche code talker
Mm-hmm.
who gets captured and sent to like concentration camp but the Nazis are housing a vampire at the concentration camp. So the code talker has to communicate. He's the only one that speaks Czech in his group, and the vampire speaks Czech. So he has to communicate with the vampire to like keep everybody alive and escape. And it's really interesting so far. I'm about halfway through it.
Wild.
But I wanted to shout it out because it's again goes to show that there are so many of these AWA books that are such high quality that like totally fly under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Because a World War II vampire story is like made for me, and I didn't hear about it until I picked up this trade. So
who's writing it? Do you know?
Rob Williams.
Rob Williams. Yep.
Oh wow, okay.
Writes a lot of those Judge Dredd and
didn't he write Petrolhead?
Yeah. I think you're right.
Robot car driving comic that I love. Sweet.
Yeah,
check it out.
It's really good. I haven't finished the trade yet, but man, I am really enjoying it.
Cool.
So,
and that was from their Halloween sale, you said?
Yeah, it was like $6 on their Halloween sale. So if they do have a Black Friday thing, check it out. But I would definitely recommend it even at full price. So
dope.
Vampires. For vampire period piece wartime fans.
That's right.
All your interests are aligned.
We all have
one masterpiece.
We all have that friend.
And it's me.
He's just on our show.
He's a total war vampire period head.
Classic.
All right, I read The Question by Alex Segura this week, which is part of DC's All In initiative. They're putting the words all in on all of their #1 issues. What's the through line there? Who knows? Just that it's new, I think.
It's DC proclaiming that they're all in on their comic books this time. No more pussyfooting around. No 1 foot in, 1 foot out. We're committing. We're committing to our comic books.
We've been half-assing it. You know what? I almost wonder if it's saying that, like, now we've got all of our Elseworld stuff sorted. Like, we're doing Vertigo, we're doing Black Label.
Yep.
Like, all of the stuff that's not canon or not important is going to be somewhere else. So, like, mainline DC is like all one thing. That might be what the message is here. I don't know. We can only speculate.
God, it's such a confusing tagline.
But I like Renee Montoya a lot, so I was excited to read this book. I haven't read a lot of like old or classic Question books, but I can speak to like a little bit of the more modern stuff. But in any case, recently in Batman titles, she's lost her job as police commissioner, and she's not sure. If you don't know, Renee Montoya has like a history as an addict and is sometimes dealing with this like conflict she has is like, is this the addict in me talking, or is this like the right decision that I'm like wanting to make now? And she's battling with that a little bit at the beginning of this book, where in dealing with her like being let go and having to like really rethink who she is outside of her work and her job, she's like, is disappearing into the Question like healthy? Is that something that I'm doing, you know, ultimately for the good and betterment of people? Or am I not taking care of myself and those things that I should be doing? Like, you just lost your job, your career needs to change. Like, who are you now? Like, should you be doing more self-introspection instead of running away from it? She doesn't know if she's escaping or what's the healthy balance. So interesting part of this. Either way, she gets to entertain her getting lost in the Question, for better or worse, when the Justice League calls her up to be basically like the police chief of the Watchtower, which, if you haven't been reading the Absolute stuff, the Watchtower is the like big Justice League outer space hub that got attacked in the Absolute kickoff. So
when everyone got their Justice League library cards.
Yeah, exactly right. So all their key fobs to outer space somehow.
This makes sense to us, yeah.
So someone's like been very like cleverly weaponizing the watchtower and like taking advantage of little flaws in it one by one. And Renee is kind of getting like a staff, and she's got Blue Beetle reporting to her and Batwoman reporting to her, who is her ex. And so there's just some like interesting relationship stuff. And Renee really realizes that, you know, she's kind of a B, C tier, street level hero. And she's being like taken into outer space, and it's kind of like, whoa, I got thrown into the majors. Like, out of nowhere in a really tough time in my life. So there's a lot of interesting things going on here that, like, if you can keep your head above water with like balancing it and all the other DC stuff, I think it'll be a really fun suspense thriller, who done it or who is doing it sort of comic. And Alex Segura is certainly like fantastic at those sort of suspense mystery type stories. So I'm looking forward to it, but I do think it'll be one of those books that, like, if you're not staying up with a couple of the other titles and tie-ins, it feels like it's a, hey, here's an accessory book to a lot of the other fun stuff happening in the universe, and here's like the couple scenes you didn't see and how that's affecting like the war room for the Justice League.
Cool.
Yeah, dude.
It's on my to read list. I'm stoked for that one.
Yeah.
It's a pass for me, dog.
If you are a Renee Montoya fan, that's also like a first appearance that I cannot believe. With how big that character is now and that she's like superhero identity, I cannot believe that you can get that first appearance for like under $10.
Yeah. That's DC for you, baby.
That is DC for you. People don't care. Like 20-year-old first appearances feel like 1 day old first appearances because it's just been around for so long.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I read Archie as Mr. Justice,
Hell yeah.
so you didn't have to.
Let's hear it, baby.
Who wrote this?
Thank you.
Sit back.
Thank
Are
you,
you sitting
Tim
down?
Seeley.
Tim Seeley, art by Mike Norton.
Hell yeah.
For some reason,
What? Wait, this is a revival reunion?
for some reason,
That's wild.
we're asked to do an Archie book. Not only an Archie book, but this is in like the Red Circle era Archie, where it was like pseudo-Christian, like moral upbringing Archie, where they like started their own superhero team called like the Crusaders or something. Like not, thinly veiled wording for some things, but being revamped. Archie is Mr. Justice, written by Tim Seeley, who has written and drawn some of the most buck-ass wild things I've ever seen in comic books. And now he's writing the squeakiest clean story that you could possibly be told. And even in the back letter pages, Tim was just like, hey, this was hard for me. It was hard for me to find the tone. It was hard for me to find like the voice for Archie. And I think we did a pretty good job. And I will agree with him. The book is passable. Like when you see Tim Seeley's name on a book, you're expecting some kind of story and some kind of vibe. And he really had to work at making it kid entry point level. And he did a phenomenal job. So I want to tip my hat to Tim for doing such a phenomenal job with it. The story is about Archie getting superpowers from a museum visit, as one will do when you go to a museum and you touch something, you get magical powers.
Happens every time.
And it's about him fighting the gentrification of Riverdale from Veronica's father. Like Lodge Industries is buying everything up in Riverdale and turning it into like Lodge, apartment buildings or superstores or what have you. And so it's Archie like taking on the man, essentially. It's a real.
He needs superpowers to do it.
It's a real response to absolute Superman is what it is.
Just run for political office, Archie.
Yeah. Just become the youth minister and get some real work done.
Join a couple boards.
And so it ends. Join the PTA for God's sake. Get him in school. And it ends with like a new supervillain being introduced, which is Reggie. He's like in a red suit, which means evil, apparently. And it's teased up that like other of our Riverdale favorites are going to become superheroes. Like Veronica's going to be one. Betty will be one. I'm assuming Jughead will also be one. And so like Archie Afterlife, this is not. Sabrina, this is not.
This is what I was going to say. And this is another thing that I have my head like not totally wrapped around with Archie comics, is that some of it's for kids and some of it's real fucked up. And
Right.
like, what are the rules for what? Because if the villain is gentrification, like, does it need to be for kids? Like, make it the boys, but with Archie characters at that point.
Yeah. It's like, maybe, you're right. Because it is just like about corporations taking over small town America and making them stale and khaki and all that. But, I mean, who knows where this is going? I'm assuming monsters and robots will be introduced eventually, but they have to address gentrification. It's a problem that needs to be taken care of. And Archie, as Mr. Justice, is the only one that can do it.
As we all know.
However, this is not the craziest thing in this comic book. And quite frankly, what happens at the end of this book, I'm surprised it isn't making comic book headlines. In the back of this Archie book, there is an Archie is Mr. Justice playlist that is available on Spotify.
Pregnant
Yes.
Reggie. What a good guess.
Pregnant Reggie. Yes. Thank you.
Oh my God.
So there is a playlist that's available on Spotify. And I would like to read to you some of these submissions for this playlist that may make your head spin and it may make you just self-implode. All right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Taylor.
Okay.
The Landscape is Changing by Depeche Mode.
Okay.
Hero by Chad Kroger. Cash Out by Fugazi.
Who's putting this playlist
I'm Still
together?
Standing by Elton John. Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. You Say Run by Yuki Hayashi. My Secret Identity by Coded Channel. Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger by Daft Punk, which is about fucking, by the way. That is like some of the main hits for this playlist. It is the most deranged, off-the-wall selections.
Yeah, no flow.
For an Archie character.
I love it.
To add Fugazi to an Archie playlist is beautiful. It's just
that has,
beautiful.
I need a hero.
Yeah.
Yes. It has me burning at the end of the night. Yeah.
Huh.
That's
Okay.
incredible.
Letter grade, please.
B.
B. Okay.
Solid B.
All right. That is a success for this book.
Yeah, but passable.
That's what I would expect and want from it.
Did you read more books, Mike? Because I read 3 more.
No, it's the floor is yours, my friend.
Let's go.
Take a breath.
I read The Rocketfellers by Peter J. Tomasi and Francis Manipul.
So Peter J. Tomasi, is this what's that imprint?
Ghost Machine.
Ghost Machine. Is this a Ghost Machine thing?
Is this a Ghost Machine thing? I will get
Okay.
into timelines at the end of this conversation for those of you who are just teaming to talk about it.
Strap yourselves in.
The Rocketfellers is a family set in the future who has escaped a killer and made it back to 2024 and is trapped here living among us cavemen in 2024.
Okay.
Are you with me? Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Futuristic family, escaped murder, is now here in 2024. Trapped here, hoping to get back.
So they pulled a Back to the Future Part 2.
Bingo, bango. And they're just like having to. The funny thing is like these hyper intelligent future humans are having to deal with us 2024 plebes and our iPhones and our like just backwards technology. So it's kind of like it plays into the like stereotypes of like science fiction stories in that same ilk of just like displaced future people having to like deal with our slow technology that they can just reverse engineer into like hologram phones or whatever. So it is very fun. I did get a lot of like Fantastic Four, Lost in Space, Back to the Future vibes from it. It definitely is like a team up book. You definitely get like their, you know, when they were escaping, they all had the same jumpsuit on. So it definitely had like a unity thing to it. There's a grandpa who's 125 years old that has the body of a 30-year-old, you know.
Love that.
Because he does pull-ups and push-ups and all that fun stuff.
So is the deal, you're probably getting to the deal, but is the deal that they come to the past in our future and are superheroes because their future tech is so advanced?
They are not superheroes yet. They're
superheroes, okay.
laying low because, as anyone knows with time travel, you can't mess with the timeline. So they're doing their best to just like be a normal, plain family in Washington, not trying to raise any suspicions. They can somehow still communicate with someone in the future through like the technology that they were able to compile from their ship and like merge with some of our technology. So the main dad character is talking to his brother from the like distant future.
Let me ask you this.
Please.
Is time travel a common thing in this universe, or was it like a crazy fluke that they traveled back in time?
In the future, they did escape in a time pod.
Okay.
So it can be assumed that time
They can
travel
be hunted.
is
Commonplace.
common. The thing is, though, the person that was hunting them doesn't know which time period they went to. And when they're communicating with the person back in the future, they're very careful not to like give any clues of what time period they're in. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at. We don't know what's going to happen. They're just
Sounds
kind of
like
stuck
a
there.
lot of time nonsense. I'm out.
Are they rich? Because their names like
fine.
the Rocketfellers, but they're the Rocketfellers.
That joke is made. People in the past are just like, so you're related to the Rockefellers? And the kid's just like, no, we're the Rocketfellers. Like, we have to work because we.
Oh, like that record label.
Yeah. Hey, Chuck, it's your cousin, James Barry. It was one of the more interesting Ghost Machine books that I've read. I'll say that.
Okay.
I don't know what they're going to do with it, because I mean they're playing it smart in the past, and they're not like trying to fuck up the future in any way. So it's like that doesn't really translate well into a comic book of just like, oh, they're doing the right thing. This is boring to read.
It's a family book, right? Like it's like a kid's written for kids, right?
Well, let's get into that, because I have here in front of me the Ghost Machine timeline.
Yeah,
and we're dealing with what they say is 4 distinct universes.
Sure.
Okay? So we have the unnamed universe, which has Geiger and Redcoat.
And Junkyard Joe.
And Junkyard Joe. Okay. And then Rook Exodus is its own universe.
Joe the Plumber's in there too.
Joe Biden also.
All the
Joe
Joes.
Biden somehow.
All your
All the
favorite
Joes. The
Joes.
Joe universe. Joe Rogan. Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo season 2. Hyde Street is its own universe, which is the anthology creepy
Horror
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has Hyde Street and Devour in it. And then we have Family Odysseys, that Family Odyssey timeline, which is the Rocketfellers, and Hornsby and Halo, which we haven't seen yet.
That's the like demon and angel that are friends.
Yeah. Yeah, real goofus and gallant.
Yeah.
So
you got that straight, Mike?
Yeah. You got all those 4 timelines straight that they want to sell us on?
To me, it sounds like the deal is if there's a book that they want to work on, doesn't matter if it's connected to anything else, they're just going to add another universe on and say this one exists in universe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Basically, unless it's like their main universe,
the Ghost President universe.
Their main universe is that unlisted. What was it, Greg?
Unnamed.
The unnamed.
Unnamed.
That's their big connected universe, and then everything else is just like separate.
Can't wait till we get that name.
Can't wait till they name that universe.
When they name that thing.
Chat, sound off. What's the name of that universe gonna be?
Be sick.
We're all just waiting for Ghost President.
No, truly.
I know. No, First Ghost. It's called First Ghost.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a fucking banger.
Yeah.
And honestly, better than the option we have now. Moving on. I also read TMNT Naruto out on IDW Nickelodeon by Caleb Gollinger and Henry Paristia. I didn't know what the fuck was going on in this book.
You probably really need to know Naruto stuff.
Yeah, you do. And that's fine. It's in the title, so I shouldn't be upset.
Yeah.
Naruto is in the name. That was on me.
Yeah. Honestly, there's probably more people out there now who are intimately familiar with Naruto than there are people with the TMNT universe.
Yeah, and I bet they're gonna fucking love this book. It was cool. It was drawn really well.
Yeah.
But
how many of those books do you think?
Got to be for kids.
How many of those books do you think Kevin Eastman has to sign?
Oh, people are really going to want that.
Yeah,
signed.
1,000.
Yeah. I can't imagine being Kevin Eastman. Like I'm picturing standing in line at Comic-Con, and the guy in front of me has a TMNT 1. Perfect, first print
with the CGC
with the all of it
right behind him.
And the guy behind me has a Naruto TMNT crossover covered in boogers and snot from his kid.
Can you draw a Boruto on this, please?
Can you draw a Naruto on this for me?
Can you give me a Goku?
Poor guy.
And then I also read What If Minnie Became Captain Marvel. Almost as confused as reading the TMNT Naruto.
Oh boy.
That's all the books.
So you haven't talked about the Moon book, have you?
Yes, sorry.
That's the one I was most interested in.
Yeah, sorry. Back up. I read Moondogs.
Yeah.
By I'm gonna mess up this name and I apologize. Like I mess up every name. Tana Haravi Du was the writer, and then script by Kelsey Ramsey. It was really, really cool. It was about like a family of African werewolves who are like in a clan that is just trying to live the best life they can in America, and like while keeping their werewolf selves like not in the open and like not hurting anyone. And then we find out there's like this other group of werewolves called ferals who are like embracing the new change of werewolfism, which is like being unapologetic and just like realizing that they're like the alpha species now.
Yeah.
And so they are at odds with that group, obviously. and they have to. It's gotten to the point where the ferals have just like been like, okay, we're not stopping anymore. Like this is going to be a thing where we're just going to like be who we are and try to like throw our gut around and be the big heavy in the world now. And they have to. This family now has to like team up as like a werewolf Avengers and take on these ferals with the help of this like special herbal tea that they can take to either enhance their powers or like control their powers. And then from there, it's just werewolf on werewolf violence, and it's pretty wild.
I love it.
All these Horizon, we talked about it on the Patreon, but what exactly these Horizon experiment books are. But we didn't talk about that on this episode, did we?
No.
Okay, so real quick, it's stories that are like a popular part of pop culture, but with a bent of like, if you change the cultural heritage of the character or the race of the character, like how does it holistically change that famous story? So we talked about there's an Indiana Jones type one, but the lead character is like one of the indigenous people. So like that completely flips who's the good guy, who's the bad guy on its head. So super interesting concept. And every single one of these books that's coming out is just like a cool one shot, like kind of like would you say like, kind of tells a well-rounded story, but like leaves a little room for like, hey, let's say it's like a hit and like a ton of people buy this and want more. There's room for them to do more of these.
Yeah,
so
each of these projects is like a beginning, middle, end in the series that they're trying to tell. And the letters in the back explain, they're just like, there are more stories we can tell in these individual universes, but it's up to you, the audience, to like kind of let us know where we need to go. And it really has like put the onus on us to like make our voices heard and to demand these kinds of unique stories. So it is kind of cool for them to be like, listen, we're giving you these things. Here they are. Like, we want to hear from you now. Like, what would you want to see more of? And hopefully there are continuing stories within Moondogs and the Manchurian and other ones that are coming out down the line.
So
yeah,
cool.
there was like a Muslim exorcist one that sounded really cool.
That's so sick.
One was described as like Evil Dead, but for blurds.
What's blurds?
Black nerds.
Oh,
dude.
And so I was like, that's fucking rad.
Yeah. Man, I got to get all of these.
Yeah, the Manchurian was awesome. The Manchurian was the one that kicked it off. It was so good.
And this honestly could be a thing that they do every year. Just like 2024's, version, 2025's version. Like
just a different
limitless
lineup every year.
Yeah, exactly. It's so cool to like think about the possibilities for all these stories.
Yeah. I'm totally sold on that. That's so cool. Gotta get them.
And that's all the books that I read.
We did it. Another
Beefy
episode of Fic in the books. It's the holiday season. We are probably going to be road tripping or with family some next week with a couple days off. So we're going to do we'll release an evergreen episode where we talk about comics. Will be a little time stamped. We recorded that. What, Greg? Would you say like 2 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
Andy, you were part of it. You'd already been back by the time we recorded part 2. So
it was
you'll get
less than a month ago.
You'll still get the full club.
Oh yeah.
For next week's episode. Hey, where to find us, all that good stuff, it's in the show's outro, buddy. So listen to that. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. First Issue Club podcast is brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company, the people responsible for our favorite drinks, the Space Camper Cosmic IPA family of beers. Our show is edited and produced by our hosts Mike DeStacy, Greg Lichtag, and Andy Vargas. You can find us on social media at First Issue Club, and you can join the supporters who keep our humble podcast going on our Patreon at patreon.com/firstissueclub.